Have you been told that it's wrong to do a push-up with your elbows flared out? Well, today I want to talk a little bit about that. My name's Dr. Michael Mash, and welcome to this week's Whiteboard Wednesday. So before we get started, if you could please subscribe to this channel, that helps this message get to more people, and I appreciate you for doing that. Today, we're going to talk about whether it's wrong to flare your elbows or do push-ups with more shoulder abduction. There's this idea in the fitness industry that a perfect push-up should be done with about 45 degrees, which comes out to be right about here, 45 degrees of shoulder abduction, because of this inherent idea that you need to tuck the elbows in order to make it more safe for the shoulders. So as you can see in this expertly drawn picture, this is a view from if somebody was looking down on somebody doing a push-up, and we compare the different amounts of shoulder abduction here. On this figure on the left, this would be somebody that's doing a push-up out here at around 90 degrees of shoulder abduction. Here it's brought down a little bit to 70 degrees. Here is about 45 degrees of shoulder abduction. When it really comes down to it, in my opinion, these are all right, because when it really comes to prescribing movement, you can't pigeonhole people into a very specific form and then say all these other forms are wrong. It really comes down to what's the client's goal, what muscles are they trying to target, what muscles are they trying to strengthen and hypertrophy, and what feels best. Do they have a prior history of shoulder pain? Do they have current shoulder pain? What type of shoulder pain? Does it hurt in the front? Does it hurt in the side? Does it hurt in the back? And it really is going to matter for which variation you're going to choose. So let's talk about the different muscle biases and why you may choose one over the other. So flaring the shoulders out to 90 degrees of abduction. So that's again going to look something like this. Somebody's going to do a push-up out here. This version, this variation, is going to inherently require a wider grip in order to keep the forearms perpendicular to the ground when you are doing the push-ups. This is going to inherently target the chest more because of the wider grip and the more degree of shoulder abduction. Now, for somebody that's dealing with anterior shoulder pain, think of the biceps tendinopathy or the subacromial pain syndrome in general, where it's a sharp, pinchy feeling right in the front of the shoulder. In my experience, in fact, flaring the elbows or flaring the shoulders out more actually feels better for these people, because suddenly they're able to do push-ups and they're going to feel it more in their chest versus feeling it right in the front of their shoulder. Often telling these people to tuck or to go down to 45 degrees of shoulder abduction, that'll only reproduce the anterior shoulder pain, whereas flaring it out to 90 actually relieves it. So if your goal is to bias the chest, or if you're trying to work around anterior shoulder pain, flaring the elbows or flaring the shoulders out more might actually feel better. So let's go to the other end of the spectrum, the tucking it to 45 degrees. So you can tuck this down to 45 degrees of shoulder abduction. This is going to inherently target the anterior deltoids and the triceps more, because it's going to be more of a narrow grip or a closer distance of the hands when they're on the floor. So if your goal is to do higher rep and really target those triceps, you may want to take a more narrow grip. Or if you're trying to work around more of a rotator cuff tendinopathy or lateral shoulder pain, lateral to posterior shoulder pain, tucking may feel better in that instance as well. And it really comes down to, it's a case-by-case scenario. None of these push-up forms are wrong. You just need to know what to select based on your goals and based on your current and past, or based on your client's current or past injury history. So this is one of the big modifiable factors when it comes to shoulder pain with push-ups, is what kind of shoulder abduction angle am I going to take that feels the best, that allows me to get the volume and intensity in that I want to get, and allows me to get the training effect I'm looking for without suffering some sort of massive flare-up 24 hours after. And this whole thing with the 90 degrees, I think it comes to this idea that, well, we shouldn't do any kind of pressing out here because it'll cause impingement and it's bad for the shoulder. Now, I will say that 90 degrees of shoulder abduction during the push-up is probably the max degree of shoulder abduction I'm going to promote. Because when it really comes down to it, when you get to the bottom of a push-up, you go into scapular retraction. And if you're trying to do a push-up with the shoulders at like 120 degrees or 130 degrees of shoulder abduction, it really just doesn't feel that comfortable because the way the structures compress in there, it just doesn't feel that good. Is it going to lead to injury? Maybe, maybe not. Am I willing to take the chance? Probably not. So I do cap the shoulder abduction angle to 90 degrees. I don't recommend doing push-ups any higher than that. But up to 90 degrees is just fine. As long as you're getting nice retraction at the bottom and you're getting a good protraction at the top, this is totally safe for the shoulder. And like I said, for people specifically dealing with like an anterior discomfort, this may be even better. Hope by now I've done a little bit of convincing to show you that there's no right way or no right degree of shoulder abduction for a perfect push-up. A perfect push-up is going to be based on what feels best to you and what are your goals. So thanks for attending this week's Whiteboard Wednesday.